Well, we'll start here. The battle between Donald Trump and the Republican National Committee. It is heating up. The billionaire businessman continuing to blast the results in Colorado, where his rival Ted Cruz swept all 34 delegates without any votes being cast in a traditional primary process. Here's Trump at a rally.
Our Republican system is absolutely rigged. It's a phony deal. Now, what do I know? I started running like 9 months ago. Who would have thought I would have been in first place? What do I know? Right? What do I know? But I'm in first place by a lot. Millions and millions of votes. That doesn't count. The Republican National Committee, they should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this kind of crap to happen, because it has nothing to do with democracy.
Trump repeated those remarks at a town hall later in the day, prompting RNC Chairman Reince Priebus to fire back with this tweet. Quote, "Nomination process known for a year and beyond. It's the responsibility of the campaigns to understand it. Complaints now? Give us all a break." Ted Cruz is also weighing in, accusing Trump of inciting violence and blaming Trump supporters for death threats the Colorado GOP chairman has received.
The idea that Donald is threatening delegates, we're seeing this pattern over and over and over again. Donald Trump's campaign put out publicly his supporters the phone number of the state chairman. He's received over 3,000 calls and death threats. Donald needs to understand he's not Michael Corleone.
Colorado Senator Cory Gardner also slamming Trump. Listen to what he said when asked about an anti-Trump tweet that came from the Colorado GOP account.
They ought to find out how that happened. They ought to find out who did it, and they ought to fire whoever it was, absolutely. But I don't think that means that you turn around and you issue death threats to the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party.
All right, well, the Colorado GOP took that tweet down, saying the account had been hacked. All right, Ambassador Bolton, let's first get something out of the way. Does Donald Trump have a point about the process itself?
Absolutely not. This is something, we have 50 state parties, they have 50 state rules, they vary all over the place. Any campaign that has literate people in it should start by reading the rules in all 50 states. And if you don't have people who can do that, you need to find them.
Which he said he did, by the way.
Yeah.
He said he knew the rules and he understood them.
So he's in a hopeless contradiction. Either he understood them and didn't do what he needed to do, or he didn't understand them to begin with. But the place to complain is when the process starts, not after you lose. Had he got all 34 of Colorado's delegates, I doubt we'd been hearing this. So I think it's very important. This is a hotly contested race. A lot's at stake. There's no doubt about it. But rule number one of politics is read the rules.
Which, and Andrea, brings the point that why people are saying that he's being a sore loser. If he understood the rules, why did he wait till after he lost to contest them? Why not before?
Right, and rule number two, Ambassador, is when you're whining or when you're explaining, you're losing. And that's not a good message to put out there. I know why he's doing it, though. He wants to galvanize his supporters that feel that it's trying to be, you know, taken away from them, and that is the nomination. But I think there's two separate things. Ambassador, you're absolutely right. I mean, the process, whether Trump likes it or not, the rules are in place and have been in place for months. And Trump has actually benefited from them. While he's only received 37% of the votes, he's got 45% of the delegates. So he actually has benefited, contrary to what he says. However, the opposite is true as well, that the establishment has been working behind the scenes to run him out. And you look at the money that's spent against him. So, Sandra, he does have a point about that. It's just he's muddling the two together, and I think they're two separate issues. The process is fair, but Trump is absolutely right when he says that there is a movement in the establishment to run him out.
But, Andrea, I think that's certainly true, but the establishment has proven itself utterly incompetent.
That is true.
Look at the $120 million spent on behalf of Jeb Bush. They might as well have taken that money out in the back parking lot and burned it.
I know.
And there are millions of other dollars that have been spent to no effect whatever. We started with 17 candidates. I'd say 13 of those were establishment. We're now down to 1. I mean, the establishment's record is wretched. So if Trump has a problem with that, I don't know what it is. They've put him in the position that he's in now.
So then what do the Republicans do, Ambassador? I mean, you have an incompetent GOP that I think everyone would agree on, that's nominated losers before, and now you have Trump rising up. I mean, but the establishment still has power.
Well, I think as a practical matter, if we want a Republican Party to emerge from the convention in Cleveland, only one of three things is possible. It's going to be Trump, it's going to be Cruz, or it's going to be Kasich. And Kasich's odds are maybe 5 or 10%, because you have to reunite the party after you nominate someone. That's why I think Paul Ryan was absolutely right to take himself out of the race. And if Trump doesn't get it on the first ballot, then I think it's likely to be Cruz. Now, a lot of people may not like either alternative, but the notion there's some third way out there is crazy. If people don't want Trump, they better grit their teeth and support.
And Melissa, Paul Ryan made it very clear that that other option is not him.
He did, although I don't know. I mean, that's one of those things where the more you protest, the more it seems like you're in there. I mean, I know he feels like he put it to rest, and that's just never going to be the case because he did the same thing with the speakership. I disagree with you, though. I mean, I think that one thing Donald Trump has done is he has really forced out in the open and shined a light on how bizarre this process is and how different it is from state to state. And I respect the idea that one of the reasons why it's so different is so that the big states don't just overwhelm and dwarf the small states. And there's a lot of things going on, and there are the rules, and he should have known them, but they are bizarre, and the average person has not paid this much attention to them in the past. And when you see it happening on the right and you see it happening on the left, where you have the Democrats are only 200 points apart in terms of regular delegates, but you add in the super and all of a sudden it's a blowout, people at home are going, wait a second, it is rigged, and on both sides.
But wait, but Ambassador makes the point it's not rigged, and we knew the rules going into this. Nothing's changed, and Ryan's Priebus saying, come on, give us all a break. You wonder what kind of damage this is doing to the party here.
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head. Most people are not paying attention this early in the process normally anyway. I mean, look at the percentage of people, it's very low, who even vote in a primary or go to a caucus. That's why those long lines in states like New Hampshire was such big breaking news, because you don't normally see people lining up in a primary around the block for a mile. But given said that, I think a lot of political observers weren't as intimate with this process either. So last August, what were we all doing? Were we necessarily paying attention to the rules in Colorado? Should his team have been Donald Trump's? Absolutely. Was Ted Cruz's? Absolutely, because he's a people on the ground kind of guy. Was John Kasich's? I don't know. But I don't agree with you, though, Ambassador, because what I'm reading is John Kasich could do this. He could do this. He court up until that second or third ballot.
I think he has one chance, and that is to cut a deal with either Cruz or Trump to be their vice president. Right now, Trump will come close by most estimates to get the magic 1237, but maybe not enough. Kasich would have enough to put him over the top. And likewise, on a second ballot, I think Cruz would be very close. I think this is John Kasich's point of maximum leverage.
Sure.
I think if he doesn't exercise it now...
And then you've got Marco Rubio out with 172 delegates, more than even John Kasich has.
Yeah, zero chance that Rubio or anybody else, not one of those three, will get the nomination.
But he could give us delegates.
He could make a deal.
And I wanted to go back to these death threats as well, Andrea. Do you think there's something that that Trump's campaign could say to make this situation any better? I spoke to a Republican delegate from the state of Indiana this morning whose family received death threats in the form of emails and various letters. It's very upsetting to hear that. And while he said he heard from the Trump campaign, he says he does not believe that Trump is directly involved with it. He did blame the rhetoric that is coming out of the campaign.
It's not helpful, and it plays into the hands of the Never Trump movement, which says that there's, violent rhetoric coming out of Trump supporters. You also hear, Mary Catherine Ham, who a lot of us know and love, political commentator, received awful comments for something that she wrote. Free speech still exists, but she wrote something that wasn't favorable to Trump, and she received nasty comments about how, they were glad that her husband had passed away, which is atrocious.
Yeah, it's sick.
It doesn't help the discourse. It has been completely lowered. However, they need to get back to the facts, and the facts are this rests on two things right now. Can Trump secure that magic number before the convention? Can he win in New York, Pennsylvania, and really it comes down to California, Sandra, with the map? Or can Cruz cobble enough together to get that second ballot vote? Those are the only two things that matter.
All right. Well, they're not winner-take-all states, so he's going to have to win in huge percentages.
Big numbers.